Just so you know, we should find you.
But if you just if you would like to mute yourself to drown out any background noise, we're going to get started. Thank you for live. Are having it recorded, able to put it up on the YouTube training channel. So if you are new and don't know that, the Light Your Dream team does have a YouTube channel that has all of our recordings. As well, you can access the training from our training resource website on the Resource Center. It's kind of like an index that you should be able to find the most important pieces of information that'll take you directly to that page. There is a link that's called Recorded Webinars, and then that link. Tonight, we're going to do on domain. So flip my screen here.
Hey, Kathy.
Yeah.
You might have to mute.
What I can do here. Last time, well, then when I do that, I always end up muting myself.
Oh, geez.
Okay. I should be, can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then we are good to go here. So let me move this out of the way. All right. So tonight's training then again is going to be on domain name training, giving you an idea of what that means if you've never experienced anything like a domain. So why do you need a domain? So your Sensations Monthly Bundle membership is going to give you a company replicating website that allows you to share information about the company and our products. It also has a shopping cart from which your customers can purchase and then for your prospects to enroll. So lots of information. It's a very valuable tool as part of your monthly bundle. But the URL, which is the website link, is going to be, as you can see typed out there, the http://team.com/your username. So you can see how complicated that can be. So the hyphens and those slashes can be confusing when you're sharing your links either verbally or, you know, in writing to someone. And it is going to be then similar to thousands and thousands of distributors who are going to have the same URL with the exception of that last part, which would be their individual usernames. So if your customer, your prospect, anybody visiting your website, if they make any mistake as they're typing it in, they are not going to arrive on your website. They're most likely going to end up on the corporate default site, but they could even end up on another distributor site where they'll make that purchase or join. So you can see how important it is that your address, your email, your URL is directing to you. So what we do is we recommend that you create a domain name for yourself that's going to brand you. Okay, not the company, not the products, but it's going to brand you. And this is also a way of demonstrating that you're a serious business owner. Most business owners have a domain name to their website. Okay. So where do you get a domain and how much is it? Well, many of us have used GoDaddy. They're one of the original domain registrars, so they've been out there a very long time. But other reputable domain companies are Namecheap.com. And if you have a website that's either hosted by a hosting company like Enos or WordPress, they're often going to have domain names available to you through their hosting plans. Most of you probably aren't doing websites, especially if you're new. So we do recommend the GoDaddy or Namecheap in order to purchase your domain name. Now, the first year, it's usually about $10, but it often can be less. That sometimes they'll give you a first year special where you may only pay $2 or $3. So this is a very economical tool that is just really effective to your business. Now it's a year-long registration, and it will renew the next year. And it's usually going to be no more than $25, including the tax, every year thereafter. Okay, now if you type in something that you like, it'll have a search bar where you can type it in and see if it's available. If it is, it'll give you a pricing. If you get a domain that comes up and says you can purchase this domain for $99, you can certainly do that, but might want to consider a different name. The more general it is, the more expensive the domain, the more competition for that domain. So if you are getting something that's any higher than about $10, might want to continue to be looking for something that will, fit your needs. And then as you're going through the purchasing of the domain too, they're going to throw a lot of add-ons at you. Do you want this? Do you want that? And you don't need anything but the domain name. There's no hosting, no this, no that. I mean, it just goes on forever. It gets a little bit complicated and confusing, but you just keep saying no, thank you, until you get to the end where you're purchasing just the domain name that you selected for about the $10. Okay. There's also searches out there. Most of the domain registrars have kind of a tool, but you can use and just search for one that helps you come up with a name, gives you ideas. You could type in a couple of keywords that you might be thinking of, and it'll give you some suggestions, and hopefully that kind of triggers some ideas like, oh yeah, how about this? Okay, and a domain name is very personal. As I said, it brands you. So, while your sponsor or others can give you insight into maybe suggestions that you have, only you can come up with a name that fits you and gives you the persona that you want to, reflect. Okay. So how is a domain name used? Okay, so you're going to be forwarding, and that's the words that you're looking for. You're going to be forwarding this personal domain name to your company scent-team.com website. Now you can have different domains for different purposes. Okay. Initially you want to at least get one that's going to direct to the home page of your company website. But then as you kind of develop your business further, if you're one to do a lot of online marketing, you can certainly purchase additional domain names. For instance, you could have one that points directly to your free drawing link on your company website. Something about, enter my free candle drawing, something, to that effect. So I have multiple domains for multiple purposes. So it's not that you just have to have one, but it doesn't also mean that you have to have a lot of them. Initially, you just want to be sure that you are getting it to your main page of your company website. If you develop a landing page, a blog, personal website, then you would have a separate domain name for that. So each domain name is only going to go to one location. Okay. So here's some best practices. You want it to be simple and short. Okay, the easier a domain name is to remember, the easier it is to type and to verbally share. You don't want to be saying something and then having to spell it out frequently. I was thinking about that today, and a lot of our clients will have very unique spelling of their name. And I think, well, that's really kind of cool. And I'm sure their parents thought, oh, this will be different. But the amount of times that those kids have to spell their name because it's not the typical spelling. So you don't want to have to give your domain and then say, well, let me spell it to you. You want them to just kind of get it right away. It should be about 20 to 30 characters, and then really no more than 3 words is ideal. I think in the first example there I had, instead of, the scent-team, I just threw out the example of South Beach Candles. Okay, 3 words, South Beach Candles. And that may actually be somebody's domain name. I don't know. I just was throwing out an example. Your domains can kind of do that, reflect something about you personally or your region You can have it be very specific to a candle business, or if you want something more generic, you can do that. Like I said, I have several domains. My branding is coachingthedream.com. Okay, so that's kind of branding me and my business. It's not specific to candles, but then I have other websites and personal pages that will be very specific to candles. So you can choose either one, but keeping it to kind of that 3 words is the best. Okay, there I kind of talk about the domain name registering ideas. And you want to kind of keep it short as well, because you're going to be putting this on your business card. So if you are new, then it's a very good idea to get the domain purchased before you go and buy business cards. Okay, and you want it to be able to fit on that business card, or if you're using like a car web decal or a magnet, car magnet, or doing advertising, or if you're at a vendor show and you've got it up on a banner, you don't want your domain going on and on and on. It should be short so that when somebody's quickly glancing at it, they can read it and remember it. Okay. As I said, it needs to be unique. It needs to represent you, per se, something about you personally. Okay, we kind of went over that. And then what you want to avoid, kind of already mentioned, kind of unconventional spelling. You don't want to spell it out for someone each time. Make it easy. And you don't want to have to explain kind of the word and what it means. So don't be using like hyphens or numbers or abbreviations. Don't say, I don't know, candles and then the number 2 go, something like that. That's hard for people to remember and to type in correctly. Okay, and you want something that is not trendy, that's a fad, because you want this to be a long-term business. You want this branding to follow you for a long time. So, pick something that's going to be, have longevity and not something that's just kind of gonna fade away. Okay, and you want it to be trustworthy. You want your visitors to have trust that they're not being scammed. They're not going to a website that, might harm them in some way. Okay. The most common endings is that, the .com, the .net, the .org, or even .us. Okay. Those are acceptable. Don't really stay away from anything. There's so many, they call them extensions out there now, that don't pick those. Because when most website visitors aren't familiar with it, and again, they might not trust what they're doing, but the best thing to do is use the .com. If you go and find a domain name that you like and you see it's already taken, unless it's something that you just absolutely have to have, I would try to pick something else. Don't use that same name, but instead of the .com, put in, .org or .biz, because your visitor isn't going to remember that. They are kind of trained to just kind of know websites are .com. So if they start typing in that name, they just put a .com, they're going to end up on somebody else. And it could be somebody, totally outside of Sensations and something else. So you've just sent somebody to somebody else's website because they think it's a .com when your was actually a .net. So try your best to use domain names that have a .com. Okay. And if you're interested in kind of the search engine, you want to try to have keywords in the domain name. As I said, you can use some version with candles in it if you would like, or if you're doing more of a generic home business, something like that. But putting the keywords in the domain name is going to make it easier for search engines to find your domain, your website, your splash page more organically. Okay, and then be consistent in using your domain over all of the platforms, again, to create a branding. So use the same name in your email, your social media, your web pages. So again, that builds trust, develop just that branding across all types of platforms. And then you want to set the domain to auto renew each year so that it doesn't expire and then you don't end up losing all of that hard earned branding that you've developed over the year. Now, when you purchase a domain name, you have the option sometimes of selecting several years. If you happen to get like a really good deal, they're like, here's a domain name for $1, but you have to register it for 2 years, 3 years. You can certainly do that, but know then that each time that it renews, it's that same length of time. So if you set it that every 2 years, it's going to do that. You can't kind of revert it back to 1 year. So if it's something that you know that you really love and you're going to keep it and build a business around that branding, it's okay to do more than 1 year, but most of the time we're always just registering it for a year and then it renews automatically at the end of that year. Okay. So a strong domain name, then it needs to be simple and clear and brandable and memorable and professional. Again, this is your business, so you want it to be professional. So be careful of how you, again, brand yourself. It's representing you as a business owner. And so it does take some thought, and sometimes it can be tricky to come up with something. But when you hit the name that resonates with you, then you'll know it. You'll know that's what you want to use for your branding. Okay, so that's really all that I have for the actual training. I can open it up here for any questions. Let me make sure everybody's unmuted. Yeah, Allison, Carolyn, if you need to say anything, you got to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, have a question? I
Carolyn?
flashing up on me on the chat. So if
Yeah, that was me.
I don't see it right now. Let me see if I can pull that up. But yeah, if you had a question that you put into the chat and I didn't see it, it just kind of flashes at me while I'm talking.
That's okay. Allison answered it.
Go ahead.
No, it was basically, we have the website, and what I do is I have a company website on Facebook also, and that's where I send everybody to, and I just put the link in and send them there. So I'm still not really totally understanding why I would want a personal website, because every time I have a customer, I'll always email them right afterwards and I'll have my link in the email.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
anytime that you can type it out, email it to somebody where all they're doing is clicking on a link,
right.
That is the best, easiest way versus, if you're telling them over the phone, that's where mistakes can happen if they forgot a dot, a hyphen, or whatever. If you can send a link, that's always going to be the best. But your question in why would someone want their own website? That's totally a personal decision. When I began 25 years ago, we had no company websites, and we were trained to build personal websites, and that's my passion. That's what I really like to do, is build splash pages and websites and all of that. So it's not really necessary for people to do these days, because as a team, we've built that for you. We have the miabellabusiness.com web page that you can send your prospects to take a look at. We now also have the Facebook business page that gives all kinds of information. So there's all kinds of tools of online and marketing. And we also have the YouTube marketing channel where we have overviews of the business. So all of those things have been developed by the Light Your Dream team for our members to use. So there's no need for anybody now to ever develop a personal website unless that's something that you have a desire and, a passion to do. Okay.
I was telling Carolyn that, for instance, you hand out a business card and tell people to enter to win, like if you're at a vendor show or something, so then they have to type in their computer or their phone, the website. That's when they could make a mistake if
Right.
it's not, And also, if you have labels on your candles with your name and website, they could type it in wrong, using the long team.com/ and then the name. So this just makes it easier. This is nothing to do, Carolyn, with an actual website like Kathy and I have. we started these websites, our own, but all our links for shopping go into the Centeam website, the same one you have. We have to have our shopping and our cart and everything go right into the Centeam. That's the rules, we can't stray from that. We just designed a little pretty, our own little thing, our own little website. But most distributors, 99% of distributors in the company don't have their own websites. Kathy and I started them a long, long time ago.
And I kind of understand that, because way back before Facebook and all that stuff, it would have made sense to have, your website. But like on my Facebook page, my company page, it's simply because I live in Sierra Vista, Arizona, it's simply SV Candle Lady.
There you go. Yeah.
And so that makes it easy for so I don't have to sit there and tell them the whole thing. I say, well, go to my Facebook page. Yeah. I just tell them to go to my Facebook page and then they can go on from there and click any links because, I'll put up a lot of times the direct link to enter the contest, not just my own link, but I put up the exact link for entering the contest. So they don't even have to do that. They just click that link and they're on the page that says enter the contest.
Yep, absolutely. Email or posting things using the direct link to whatever page that you want to direct them to. That's all good. So the domain.
When I can sell candles in person, I always email the person once I get home, because I get their email address. I email them once I get home and tell them, if you're local, I prefer that you can just buy them through me because I do keep some candles on hand. But if you're not local, here's my website and you can order it that way.
Yep, exactly. So your domain name is going to point to the main page of your company website. It's not going to have each page of the website. So if you wanted to send somebody to a particular candle scent or category, just typing in the domain isn't going to get them to.
And I realize that, but I know how to do it so they can go to the direct candle.
You copy that in the
I just copy it and then paste it in.
Yep, exactly. And so that's all great. Again, if you're typing, you're emailing and doing things like that. But the purpose of the domain, making it short and simple, is so that you can put it on the banner at the vendor show. Somebody goes by quickly, they can see it. Putting it on your business card, putting it on, a car magnet. Somebody pulls up next to you and sees the Candle Lady. Oh, I'm going to check that out when I get home. That they'll remember that. But if you're telling them to go to scent-team.com/the Candle Lady in Arizona, they're never going to remember that. So that's the purpose of having a domain, is making it simple and easy for people to get to your company website or whatever website you choose without making mistakes and ending up on somebody else's. And that happens. It seriously happens, where people have signed up elsewhere, bought product elsewhere because they didn't type in your website address correctly. And, if this was $100 a year, okay, maybe, but really you're paying anywhere from $10 to $20 a year to have a domain name. So worth the effort of doing it. Okay, I think that was all the questions from the chat. Did anybody else have any questions?
Kathy, could you just explain? I see Archie's here. Welcome, Archie. Good to see you.
Hi.
Can you just explain, like, when you buy the domain, so how do you connect it? How do you connect it to the Centeam website?
Yeah, and that's going to be dependent upon where you buy your domain, and they're going to have instructions. But you need to look for that word of forwarding. So you're going to go, like in GoDaddy, you go to your domain name, and then it'll be like, manage domains, and you're looking for those words of forwarding. So you're going to that home page of your company website, copying that whole URL, the scent-team.com/mycandles, copy that whole thing. And then there's going to be a box that you're going to enter that into. And that's what you're telling that register, is that you want the domain to point to this page. And it can take a couple hours. Usually doesn't take that long for it to do that. But what it'll be, then you test it. type in the domain name, and then make sure that it ends up again on your company website. If it ended up on the corporate site or something else and you made some mistake. So again, that's why it's a good idea when you're on the company page to copy the address from the URL, and then you're posting that into the forwarding instructions. And so each domain is going to be a little bit different, but you should be able to either watch a video or type in their search bar, like, how do I forward a domain? And it will tell you precisely what to do, or you can contact their, customer support if you're having trouble.
Yeah.
It's very
I was
simple.
gonna say, GoDaddy customer support's very good at helping you get the forwarding. They'll do it right for you too.
Mhm.
You don't have to even do it. You just give them a call, tell them what you want to do, and they'll do it for you if you get confused.
Mhm. Help you too. If Allison and I very much know how to domains, as I said, we've got plenty of them, so we can help you figure out how to do that. But honestly, the hardest part of all of this is deciding what branding are you going to use? What name are you going to use to identify yourself in your business? So, okay. Any last questions? Okay. Well, thank you for coming on live, those that joined us. I'll get the recording up on the site and the Facebook group once that is available. And then always, if you have questions after thinking about it, if you're here live or if you've watched the replay, you can always post in the group any questions under that thread, and we can certainly answer that for you. But yeah, that's all I got for you tonight. But it's a really important piece that we do recommend that you do. And even if you've bought business cards in the past, use those up, hand them out, and then when you get your next set of business cards, that you have your domain on there to make it easier for your prospects, your customers, and then gives you a little bit more credibility and hopefully getting that sale and that sign up, and that they don't end up someplace else. All right. Well, that's all I got for you guys tonight. So thank you so much for being on the call. All right. Y'all take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.